creating your own job.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Creating Your Own Job, a series that brings experts in to help you start or grow your business. Today we're going to be talking about understanding franchises, and with me today are Bill McCowan, who is the Assistant Director, Marketing and Business Planning at USF's Small Business Development Center. Welcome, Bill. Glad you could be here with us today. Pat Deering, who's an owner of FranNet of the Greater Tampa Bay. Welcome to you.
Thank you for having me.
Scott Weber, an attorney who practices and specializes in the area of franchises and other things, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Glad
you could be. We'll go around and we'll start with you, Bill, telling people who don't know, and I don't know why they don't know, about the SBDC, what it does and what it is.
Sure. The Small Business Development Centers are part of a nationwide network of help centers for small businesses. Here in the Tampa Bay area, we are aligned with USF and the College of Business at USF. Our mission is to help small businesses to not only grow, but ultimately succeed. And we do that by offering training sessions, seminars, to provide information to them, as well as no-cost confidential consulting services. So we are all about small businesses.
And you all come under the umbrella of the federal government.
We do. We were originally chartered over 30 years ago by the SBA, the Small Business Administration.
Taxpayer dollars are paying for this. People should use it.
They should use it.
Absolutely. Okay, a lot of us don't know what our taxpayer dollars are doing because you guys don't pay for a lot of PR. And so nobody knows, you know, and they need to know this. Pat?
Well, I'm a franchisee. FranNet of Greater Tampa Bay is a franchisee of FranNet. And FranNet is a franchise consulting firm. We're 25 years old this year. And we work with individuals who want to own a business to help them assess their skills and decide if business ownership is right for them, and if it is, if franchising is right. And from that point, we work and we coach them through the process to help them find a business that suits their goals and their strengths.
Do you get involved the other way if somebody thought that they should franchise their business or not?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
There are other people
we
doing it.
refer those out to attorneys and individuals like that.
Okay. Scott?
I'm the founder of Scott Philip Weber PA. I've been practicing franchise law my entire legal career. I'm also a certified franchise executive with the IFA, and what I do is I help franchisors and franchisees get into business. When we have somebody who wants to become a franchisor, I work with them. I help develop the franchise program. I work with consultants, and there are a number of good consultants who consult in the area. One of them is Franchise, which is out of Lakeland area, and they're local, and I work with them, and I work with others. I franchise and a few others who I'll work with. We'll help franchisors become franchisors. We'll also work with people who want to become franchisees and steer them down the path of franchising. Sometimes franchising is right for them, sometimes it's not. And you have to give your client advice as to whether or not they should get into it, and if they are going to get into it, how to do it in a way that fits their needs and protects them. And that's what I do. In addition to that, I am one of the equity partners in LED Source of West Florida. We are the multi-unit LED Source franchisee. We do LED retrofit lighting for large franchise systems and other hospitals, schools, and the like.
This studio could
exactly.
do this.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, a trade is in the offing. I can hear it right now.
So not only am I a franchise lawyer, I'm a franchisee myself, and I take equity positions in certain franchisors through private equity work, and I do that as well.
So you have experience all around the whole 360.
Quite a bit.
Scott, you mentioned earlier when we were getting ready that Tampa is a market filled with franchises, which I was kind of amazed at. Would you elaborate on that for the viewer?
Yeah, most people don't realize that our city is one of the epicenters of franchising in the United States. We have some extremely large franchisors operating out of this area. Outback and Checkers and others. We have franchise systems that have been started in this area, again, like Outback. We have franchise systems in areas that people don't think of as franchising, like Pods, which is portable on-demand storage, which I worked with early in my career, which started off as a franchisor in this area. Other systems like Signs Now out of Bradenton, which is now part of the Allegra network, has grown to a very large franchise system. And we have small startup franchises, everything from Indian fast food restaurants like the Tunderies in South Tampa to mid-sized to growing franchisors like Medi Weight Loss Centers, which people see their advertisements all around, another client of mine that's grown and been very successful. So if you were to look at the Tampa Bay area, and you didn't know much about us, you'd overlook the fact that we have an incredible talent pool when it comes to franchising, both franchise lawyers, franchisors, franchisees, franchise consultants. This is a great area for franchising, and if you're interested in getting in that business and you're interested in creating your own job in the Tampa Bay area, you can't go wrong with the talent pool to rely upon. And people here are certainly willing to help each other out, which is great too.
Bill, some of the classes and consulting that's offered at the SBDC that would be helpful to someone considering a franchise business, can you name how often they take and how often they're offered and what kind of classes people might be, it might be suggested to them that they should make sure they take?
Yes, we offer a wide array of classes. Everything from the basic starting your business class, which helps cover things like, what licenses do we need, what taxes will we have to pay, how do we select the entity that we want our business to operate under. The starting your business class, since it's very popular, we offer that every week. We have other classes such as financing your business in today's economy. Certainly there are challenges with financing today, and we help walk them through and provide the information to help them find those sources of funding. Other seminars we have would be things like marketing your business, search engine optimization, igniting your website sales, even minority business certification.
And those things are all valuable no matter what you're doing, whether you're
definitely.
starting your own brand new startup business that has nothing to do with franchises, or you're going to be franchising. You still need all those things. You need money, you need a plan, you need all the things you need.
You do, and those classes are either offered at no charge or a very low charge. Oh, and I failed to mention business planning class, which is a very important one.
Yep.
And in that class, we not only offer them information on how to do their research, but we also offer the software that allows them to build a really good-looking business plan.
Pat, what are the advantages of a franchise? I mean, I know somebody's already done a brand or something. I guess that's the big number one. I don't have to go out and create a brand.
Someone's already done the brand, yes, but it's businesses run on systems. And good franchise programs and good franchise brands have got good marketing and operations and product delivery systems. And so you're really buying an opportunity to get a head start going out in the marketplace. You have national branding, but you have the support of other franchisees as well. So there's so many different advantages to going with a franchise as opposed to a standalone business. The key, however, is you have to be willing to follow those systems if you're going to buy into a franchise.
So you can't get a little bit think a little bit out of the box. Yeah. I'm not going to make a McDonald's hamburger square, for example.
That's correct.
Because I'm
That's correct.
I'm going to be thrown out.
And some systems are more flexible than others. Mm-hmm. But the key for a franchise is it really gives you a toolkit. You've got a business ready to go. You have to implement, so you can take your skills and transfer them into the business.
And they already have a successful model in most cases.
They have a successful model, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so if I came to you and I said, Pat, I can't find a job, but I have a few bucks, and I'm thinking of going into, a franchise. Well, how would you handle me?
Well, the first thing we'd want to do is really do a clear assessment of where your strengths are, what your goals are. What are you trying to get from the business? In my business, we don't look at what kind of product or service you're going to sell. For example, you mentioned some of the franchises going into this they're hot franchises.
Yeah, restaurants.
Restaurants,
and,
things of that nature.
Which seems odd during tough economic times, but people still like to go out to eat, I guess. And
they do.
Yeah.
They do. But what you want to do is really look at yourself first. Where are your skills? Where are your strengths? Where do you want to get your customers? And do an internal and a personal evaluation before you start looking at a business. Before you go to the market, before you do a business plan, you really need to decide. And then decide if franchising is right for you. Are you willing to follow someone else's systems?
You want to add to that, Bill?
Yes.
I do want to add to that.
Yes.
I see you ready to go.
Yes, because there are over 3,100 franchise offerings out
Right.
there in 300,
Wow.
300 different
yes.
industries. So there's
In the United States
yes.
or where the whole world? The United
Yes.
States.
Yeah, and so you're
3,100.
bound to find something that would be compatible with your interest and your skill sets. But again, I do want to agree with what Pat said, that it may not be for everyone.
Well, if you
That's
were going to
correct.
open it, I always think about restaurants as a former marketing person as one of the hardest businesses you can get in. I mean, I never want to go home and I'll just sleep here 4 hours a night and I'll just keep cooking or serving or whatever it is I'm doing, right?
Right.
I
And
mean,
like-
you have to have that kind of mentality.
You have to have your lifestyle goals and what hours you want to work and those types of things. I mean, as a business owner, we've all been business owners. You're going to work long hours as a business owner.
Yeah, I love when they say, you know, owning your own business is such freedom.
Yeah, you get to choose which
Yes.
80 hours a week you work.
That's true.
Yes, that's true.
And you have to evaluate the franchisor. You mentioned that they have a successful system. That's not altogether true. Not
Okay.
every franchisor's system is equal. You can look at multiple franchisors with sandwich concepts, and you can evaluate who has the better system, who provides better back office support for their franchisees, better marketing support, better analysis of cost of goods and cost of labor, whose system is better, because there are differences. And many franchisees will look at a franchise investment in part, and they need to if they're going to be owner-operators as to what kind of job they want to operate. But then they forget to look at what's the economics of this. If I'm making a $500,000 investment, what's my ROI? What's my cost of goods? What's my
Return on
cost of labor?
investment for those
What's my
who
cost of
get
labor?
Absolutely.
And if I'm looking at this one concept, how about I look at another concept with a similar initial investment cost? And are the numbers different? Is it that much better? Is there a difference? And often there are significant differences. You need good quality consultants. You need good quality advice and education to make that decision. If you just leap into it based solely upon, I like their hamburgers, you're going to make a mistake.
Right.
You really have to look at it as a business owner starting a business. You need that education, you need that advice.
You would probably just say, then keep eating those hamburgers, but don't be buying into it.
Well, in the evaluation
right.
of how much of an entrepreneur am I really? Franchisees need to be robust entrepreneurs, but they can't be 100% entrepreneurs, because the personality type who is a 100% entrepreneur will not take suggestions or direction from anybody. It's their business, it's their world, they're running it, they're at the top of the show, and they will not be good franchisees. And on the franchisor side, representing franchisors, I can't count the number of people who appear to be good franchise prospects that a franchisor has had to say, we won't sell to this person because they're going to be too independent. They're not going to follow what we do. They're going to make the square burger, and that's not good unless you're at Wendy's.
Right, yeah, I see. Bill?
Yeah, and absolutely on target there. All franchises are not made equally. And one of the things that we ask a potential franchisee that comes into us for a consultation, we ask them if they have received the franchise disclosure documents to bring those in. And one of the key areas we want to look at is looking at the franchisor's financial position. Look at the financial documents to make sure that they're financially stable.
Oh, that they're not just looking to franchise out because they needed some cash, which can often be the case, correct?
Although that can be misleading, because in the disclosure document, the franchisor entity has to provide its financial statements, normally past 3 fiscal years, unless it's been in operation shorter, and then there's a stage in for financial statements if it hasn't been in operation a full 3 fiscal years. But let's say I have a string of sneaker stores in the Tampa Bay area, and they're doing wonderfully successful. And the numbers are good, the cost of goods are good, the labor is good, I've got a system, I know I can convert my system with some good consultants, well, with some system standards and some manuals, and I can roll this out as a franchise. And I decide to do that. Most often, as a franchisor, I'm going to create a new entity. That new entity is not going to have any financials. And so when you put the financial statements in the disclosure document for that type of owner-operator that's now become a franchisor, the financials don't reflect the strength of the business. And so the franchisee has to dig deeper and look at the actual operations of their company-owned locations that form the prototype of the franchise system. And sometimes the franchisor can share that information, and sometimes because of financial performance representation rules that the FTC puts out there that limit how you disclose things, sometimes the franchisor just doesn't share that.
You mean maybe if it's a public company of some sort?
No, in item 19 of the franchise disclosure document, you have to make what's called an FPR, financial performance representation, if you're going to make one. Meaning that you cannot tell franchisees during the sale process what they might make or what you have been making as a franchisor on your company-owned units unless you do that through the FDD in item 19. And there's a specific format for doing that. Otherwise, you can't advertise that, you can't share that with franchisees. Now, they can get it from other franchisees. If there are other franchisees in the system, they can ask a franchisee, hey, how are you doing? Perfectly fine, that franchisee can answer. If they ask the franchisor's sales personnel, how does the franchisor's shop in Tampa do? Can't answer unless the FPR is in the disclosure document. So again, you need
that's for their protection, though.
You need good business advisors and you need good legal advisors in the process to help you figure out what information is available, what information is available at the franchisor's option, or what do they decide to hold back, and how do I get the information I need to make that informed decision given the limitation of the information that's in the FDD.
Pat, you wanted to add to that?
When you're looking at a franchise, the information you're looking at is different than when you're going to look at a standalone business because of the FDD and the way you have to go about doing your due diligence. And that's why you really need people who are familiar with franchising to assist you, like a franchise attorney, a good accountant who is familiar with franchising, people that can help you know where to go find the information. Because if you're going to buy a standalone business, you're going to go look at the books, you're going to get an accountant and go do that.
If you're smart, you'll sit in your car outside for 3 weeks too,
right.
And see if
Absolutely.
It's really real.
All those types of things. And in a franchise, you have to go about it just a bit differently. You can still get all the information you need, but you just have to, because of the FDD and some of the regulations, you have to approach it differently. And someone who's never looked at a franchise before may not know that.
Right. Where do the mistakes or pitfalls, I mean, you've mentioned this, you better know your strength, because that's a pitfall if you don't. This other thing, you better look at the financials. If they're available to you, you better be careful about that. But what other things are there to like sort of be mindful of that could, or you've seen mistakes, I'm sure as an attorney, you've seen plenty of them. Somebody trying to get out of a franchise, I assume that would be. Would that be right? Or Bill, did you want to answer?
Well, one of those mistakes would be getting into something prematurely, signing the document without getting proper legal counsel, and then realizing that you don't like what you're doing and you want to exit. You kind of need to know what you're up against up front if you want to exit, because it may not be that simple.
Are there penalty clauses, in other words, involved in if you want to either resell it or you want to somehow get out?
Yeah, if you just buy a franchise and decide after a couple months that you don't like it and you want to quit, if I'm representing the franchisor, I'll take your firstborn child. You know, it's as the old joke. It's there are significant contractual, I wouldn't call them penalties, but consequences to quitting, because franchisors can't grow systems if franchisees just have the ability to quit whenever it gets tough. You have to contractually require those franchisees to dig in and make the business go. And so you don't really have the option to get out. Now, in certain circumstances, franchisors will amicably negotiate with franchisees when it really just is the wrong fit. But often it's the franchisee's responsibility to resell that business rather than just terminate it. Otherwise, it has significant economic consequences of just terminating, because it hurts the franchisor's brand. No one wants their restaurant going dark. No one wants the doors closed. It doesn't look good for the brand. So it's a franchisee's obligation to find another buyer. But on the note of where do people go wrong, one, they don't have basic education. A lot of prospective franchisees are well educated in business and they're along their lines. But those who have not been entrepreneurs before or have a business background, they really need to talk to a group like Bill's. They need the basic business knowledge about starting a small business so they can what their lawyers are telling them. And so that really helps. And if they're not going to get it through your organization, they need to do some research on Business 101 on the internet so they can have that informed discussion. So
they at least know what questions to ask the lawyer. Is that
right.
Would that
it's
be
an
right?
absolute baseline.
That is correct.
Pat, you wanted to add?
Yeah, they need to. When you're coming out of a corporate environment or you've never been a business owner before, so many people, you don't know what to ask. You're very comfortable in that corporate arena, but you don't know what to ask when you're going into a very new venture. But I think that some of the mistakes, when we get back to the mistakes, one of the things I see so often is people see a restaurant, a business that excites them, but they don't think about what's involved in running that business. And so they may go off and, oh, I'm going to buy this business and I can make all this money, but they don't look at really what they're going to have to do and how they're going to get those customers and what they're going to have to do there. This is a very good business model in the right hands. And so they need to do their homework up front and really make sure that they are an educated, informed buyer.
Can they get from one franchisee to another? Will a franchisor give more concessions because they really want somebody to be in Tampa, Florida, or someplace else? For example, I think of things when I ran my marketing company that was really important to a lot of small businesses, and it was co-op advertising dollars. They would give them money, well, they would reimburse them money for advertising that they did, or if it's a store, I don't know, let's say it was a gym and it sold also, I don't know, tennis balls. The tennis ball manufacturer might give you more money for advertising that you're using those rackets or tennis balls or whatever.
Expectations going into the franchise relationship are critical. Expectations as to what the franchisor can actually negotiate or will negotiate is almost everything. Too many franchisees hire a local attorney, friend who's been an estate planning attorney or some other attorney of bankruptcy, something that's not really in the area of franchising. And the franchisor gets this 20-page list of things that the franchisee wants to change, often asking for changes to be made for the franchise disclosure document, which is just an informative piece. And that harms the relationship of the franchisor and franchisee going in, because the franchisee feels that the franchisor is not being sufficiently accommodating because whoever's advising that franchisee just doesn't know. Franchisors don't negotiate these kinds of things. They will negotiate some things, and it's often directly related to, one, how badly do they want a franchisee in that area? Two, the experience level of the franchisee and what qualities that franchisee brings to the system. The economic situation of the franchisee, their financial resources. Well-funded franchisees who can buy multiple franchises or could buy multiple franchises in the future, they're probably going to get a few more concessions. But if you ask the franchisor, hey, can I do what I want with your trademark? Can I change your logo and make it pink instead of blue? And you ask that during negotiations, you just wasted time and probably hurt your ability to become a franchisee. If you're a franchisee in negotiations and you ask for changes to the termination provisions to basically let you off the hook if you do everything wrong, or ask if there's no consequence if you don't pay the franchisor, or I've seen all these kind of crazy things suggested, why would a franchisor want to sell a franchise to you? So you have to know what to ask for, and based on who you are and how the franchisor evaluates you, what you should even bother asking for. And so there is a little bit give and take, but it really has to do with understanding the relationship and the value each party brings to it. And if you just go out there and ask for a million things going in, you're just going to bog things down, and you may not even get a franchise from that. franchisor.
I saw this article that listed these hot franchises for 2012, and they're saying hotels, burgers, frozen desserts, convenience stores, fitness gyms, senior health services, mobile franchises, business coaching. Those are hot. They've also got a list of what's not. I was just wondering, well, number one, you might want to comment on that. Does that sound right to you? And number two, cost-wise, if I only have $20,000, am I even a contender for a franchise? Are there, things that don't require as big an amount of money down for me to give this a whirl? Or do I need whatever it is to do a McDonald's, which is, a couple of million anymore? I don't even know.
Investment varies, but I can tell you there are a number of hot franchises. Everybody always asks me, and they ask you, what's hot? Well, what's hot often is dependent upon what your skill sets are and your investment capabilities are. So hotels might be hot, but the average franchisee is not buying a Marriott. It's just not happening.
That's right.
But there are some smaller concepts that are hot and that are growing tremendously. And there are some that are even starting out of Tampa Bay. Hydro Dog, which is a client of mine, fair disclosure, they've got over 200 locations in Australia. They've just come over to the United States, and it's mobile dog grooming. It's a great small concept. It's a great concept for people who want to buy themselves a job, essentially. Hydro Dog. They're the little blue trailers that look like dogs they tow around. So if you're looking at a concept like that and you're a small initial investment type franchisee, you're looking for something under 100 grand perhaps.
And I'd say, why don't they change their name? Because that sounds like a water dog.
Well,
not a shampoo dog.
They like the name, and so it works. Now, there are burger concepts growing. You've got Burger 21, another franchisor right out of the Tampa Bay area.
Yes, from Tampa.
That's the Johnson brothers, and I know Bob well. That's Front Burner Brands, which is Melting Pot and Grill Smiths and Burger 21. They just launched a burger brand that's really doing very well, and it's a larger investment tolerance for people, but it's a good kind of concept you can look at. So even looking at our local area, you can say, okay, yeah, there are hot concepts, there are franchisors around. Maybe I want to talk to them, but I have to decide, do I have X amount to invest or Y amount to invest?
Can you give me the range?
Well,
I mean, honestly.
Over half of the franchises now out there, you can get all in for under $250,000. I mean, that's all in.
Wait, is it possible to get a great deal of that finance? Or what are you going to put down these days to get something like that with a bank, with how crazy they are anymore, banks?
Well, keep in mind, it's going to depend on what assets you have, what your net worth is. There could be some room for negotiation there.
And whether you have more than one child to put up for collateral.
Absolutely.
Any grandchildren, will put them up too, that kind of thing.
They don't get very much for grandchildren.
No, but they're cuter.
But you mentioned a couple of the franchises that you mentioned there are very location driven. And one of the advantages of working through a franchise and purchasing a franchise is that they are going to be your partner in helping you find a good location. And coming from the marketing world, things like convenience stores, hotels, restaurants are extremely sensitive to location. In fact, if you go try to set up your business in an inferior location, you can't outmarket a bad location. I don't care what your marketing budget is. You can't overcome that bad location. So having the franchisor use their expertise in understanding exactly what geographics, demographics, psychographics that you're looking for, that's huge, and that's worth part of that franchise fee that you pay.
So you don't make a mistake.
And that's directly related to underwriting.
Right.
If you're on the SBA registry, it gives the SBA some comfort that this is a legitimate franchisor who has that talent level, and that there is a greater, to some degree, level of probability of success of that franchise versus just an independent business being started. And it does have some impact of underwriting, whether it's speed or whether the likelihood of actually getting the loan. And so franchising is a benefit if you're looking to finance.
Now, I want to find out more about what else they offer in consultation besides location, but we're going to take a very short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
Welcome back to Creating Your Own Job. Today we've been talking about franchises with Bill McCowan from SBDC, Pat Deering, who's the owner of FranNet of Greater Tampa Bay, and Scott Weber, who's a franchise attorney. We're talking about franchising. I'm Louise Thompson, the Executive Director of Tampa Bay Community Network. You too can make programs like this one. Just come down, take our training, give us a call, and pretty soon you'll have your own show on the air. Okay, so we were just talking about some of the mistakes, correct? And all of you told me at this break that you are or were some sort of entrepreneur. 4 companies you started. Yours is brand new. Your law firm's pretty brand new, right?
And the LED business is new.
And your LED business, so you've bought into a franchise. You're
Right.
in a franchise.
I am in a franchise.
And you're
yes.
teaching people about franchises, and you are too.
I
So
actually purchased a franchise in the past as well.
you did?
Through the company that I was working
Well,
with.
let's do your personal experiences.
Okay.
So how did you end up, Scott, with LED?
Well, I was actually the outside general counsel for franchising for the franchisor. I helped develop the franchise system. And at the time, I was the head of the franchise and distribution practice group for a large firm. The client came to me and said to me what so many other clients have said over the years of, Scott, why don't you get into the business? Why don't you buy one of our franchises? Why don't you do more interaction with us than just practice of law? And quite frankly, on the franchisee level, throughout my 15-plus year career representing franchisors and franchisees, I had not invested in a franchisee before. And there were reasons why. I went through the analysis of what was right for me, and although I've had lots of great clients with lots of great franchise systems, until this one wasn't right for me. But I made the decision that the LED source was right for me and resigned my partnership with my firm in December, bought into the LED business, and started my own law firm to coincide with the LED business. So I split time between the two. And the decision-making process was interesting to do for myself what I have been helping clients do for many years when it's on the franchisee level. I looked at the kind of business I wanted to be in. Did I want to flip burgers if my burger flipper didn't show up? Or did I want to be involved in a more professional level business where I could step in if there was an issue, but I wanted to run it? And I came to the conclusion that I really didn't want to flip burgers. I didn't want to be the fry guy in an emergency situation. Now, some people don't mind doing that. They want to do that. Some people want to buy an AMCO transmission center coming out of corporate America, and they really don't mind stepping in and doing all those kind of things, and it's exciting for them. But that wasn't exciting for me, and the LED business is a sales and distribution business where you manage a sales force and you don't have installers and things like that, and that was exciting. I wanted to pick a franchise that was at the beginning end or the beginning of a growing market. You want to look at whether or not you're buying a franchise in a saturated market or not. Well, the hamburger space and or the sandwich space, pretty saturated. Some of the service industries saturated, some not so much. And so in the LED business, less than 2% of all the lighting out there in the commercial level is LED. It's a huge growing market. And I looked at that analysis and said, okay, here's a great opportunity to get into a business where
We're green too, where we're going green with everything.
It's something that the public likes.
Yeah.
So growing market, something the public likes, the kind of business that I didn't mind operating as a professional and looking at. And then I looked at the return on investment. And although since I'm still the franchisor's outside general counsel as well, I can't get into the specifics of the return on investment on an LED business without making an FPR, which I'm not supposed to make on the air, so I won't. It was a very compelling investment proposition. Because you look at some businesses and you say, if I buy this Subway business or this restaurant or this service business, there may be a cap on the ability to generate additional gross revenues based on the business model. You can only make so many hamburgers a day at some locations. You can only sell so many cups of coffee at another location per day. You're going to pretty much cap out. I wanted a concept that didn't have really a cap.
You only cap out because you didn't have another one.
But yeah, and so
I mean, you just build another coffee stand or another.
well, you may, but you may not have the rights to do that. And so I was
Okay.
able to buy the multi-unit rights to the whole west coast of Florida and give myself the right to expand. So as a franchisee, I got the things I wanted out of the business relationship. And then I looked at cost of failure. What happens if the business doesn't go well? Well, some businesses, if you need to make a $2 million or $3 million investment in a large big box restaurant, that's great if that's what you want to do, but you also have to weigh in the cost of failure. If this business doesn't work, how much am I into the business for FF&E and land and sunk costs on labor, and what's not recoverable, and what's going to be my exposure if it doesn't work out? And in the LED business, it was a relatively limited exposure amount. So I looked at the kind of criteria that I wanted as a franchise professional and looking at a concept, and I applied that. And I've looked at other concepts. I've had other clients I've worked with that have got great concepts. I mean, if I was going to look at a different concept, another concept of mine, Medi weight loss in town, great concept. But I didn't want to be in a concept where I had to manage physicians, just because, quite frankly,
Tough job to do.
I have an ego. They have egos, and I didn't. But if you're a physician, great concept. It fits your personality well, and that would be a great concept for a physician to buy. But probably not the best concept for me as a lawyer to want to buy into.
Pat,
and so,
your decision making.
Well, I was in corporate America for my whole life. And I was laid off in 2007. And so I came to franchising late in life. And I had been in one field, loved what I did, but I'd done it over and over again. And I was introduced to franchising. And I thought, this is the way for me to end my career, if you would. I was looking for something that was flexible, that could take the skills that I had. And mine is a people business, and helping to understand people and helping people understand themselves. And so for me, it was a great fit. I have the flexible hours. I'll be a franchisee for a lot of years. There were several personal decisions. And everybody has to look at where they are in their life. And for me, I was at a point I didn't want to be on the airplane on Monday and back on Friday.
Right.
I didn't like the idea of being the first person in the office and the last one out at night, and then nobody knows, you're working all weekend for somebody else. So for me, it was a lifestyle decision to move over. It's been a great decision for me. I also didn't want a lot of employees. I'd been in HR. And so
Toughest part.
Toughest
running
part.
A business,
and
managing
so,
people.
And I decided that I wanted something with a low number of employees. So it was really a lifestyle decision for me, and it was a good fit. And I went to the FranNet consultant here in town, and he was ready to retire, and I said, I want to buy your business, and that's what I did.
Great. Bill, and you had some experience either in entrepreneurship, or did you do some franchise too?
Well, yes, I was vice president of retail for a petroleum marketing firm that was in the center of the state. It was a family-owned business. And during that time, I purchased an ice cream franchise, or several of them, to go into our convenience store facilities.
And even if you don't like that business, at least you got product you like.
That's right.
That we all like.
That's right. And I have done research on several other franchises that we had looked at incorporating into our convenience store facilities. We ended up doing a partnership. It was what we called co-branding, where one of the local franchises, Hungry Howie's, we subleased a space inside the convenience store to Hungry Howie's, and so we had our store with all of our regular offerings, as well as the hot foods that Hungry Howie's offered. So
Similar
it was a
to
great
what Subway's
partnership.
done that too, right? In some
Yes.
of the, I don't know which gas stations now. Is it Sunoco or?
They're in probably all branded
Oh,
gas
they don't
stations.
stick with one. They didn't make a deal with one guy. We were talking earlier about some of these franchise opportunities are high cost because you have to build a building and find a location, and yeah, they help you with all that, but that it might be wiser if you're first starting out or you have less money to go into a service-based business, like maybe senior health care, or there's a list here. plumbing, dog grooming, as you mentioned earlier, these kinds of things?
Business coaching, if you have good skills to do that. If you've been a corporate executive, maybe you can transfer those skills into coaching other small businesses, other business owners. There's just a whole variety of those businesses out there, everything from translation services.
Oh, true.
That's a franchise. You can be franchised to do that. There's a lot of business coaching. There's a lot of senior care. If it comes into your home, the handyman service, the cleaning businesses, those are service-based businesses. They're not high dollar to get started. The cleaning the lint out of your dryer, for example, where you have people that go into folks' homes to do that. That's a service-based business.
That's why I had sons.
Well, if you
To
don't have
come at
sons,
Christmas. Take care of that, will you?
But you
yes,
have to,
absolutely.
You have to be careful and watch your startup costs, even with the
do.
service businesses, because
Absolutely.
if you're being pitched a service-based franchise, and to a large degree, you can say my LED franchise that I'm a franchisee is essentially service-based. We do sales and distribution. But you have a significant cost, not as much as opening a restaurant, but you do have to budget to invest and hire people. For example, we are hiring at least 10 new salespeople in the next couple months. At the Tampa office, we'll hire at least 10 in Pinellas, and throughout the west coast of Florida, we'll create approximately 50 new jobs, paying anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 a year in the next year and a year and a half, hopefully. So if we're successful, we'll create a lot of new jobs. As a franchisee, your cost to establish an office is not significantly high. But if you want to grow aggressively and you've got that desire to grow and hire new people, you have to budget for what are my costs of labor.
Well, you talked earlier too about, you only have, you can only make so many hamburgers in a place or cups of coffee or whatever, but when you're a consultant, as I was for many years, you only have this many hours. Even if you're insane and work 80, you can't make more than the hours that you personally have available.
Right.
I mean, you just can't do it. You have to hire other people to either supplement your services or duplicate or whatever so that you can sell those.
And you make a good point. I mean, and what Scott is saying is correct. You need to plan for that. You need to have a good accountant, and you need to lay out your business plan. You just don't go into this and not have a plan, not know where you're going, what your expenses are going to be, and what your goals are going to be. You need to start your business with the idea of where you want to be down the road and when you want to get out of it, and what are your goals. Know where the road is going to lead you and what it's going to take to get there. And it's just making smart business decisions, and the SBDC offers a lot of information and a lot of support in that respect. And you need a good accountant in addition to a good attorney when you're running a business.
And the business planning, the education that you provide, I think is critical. Actually putting together a business plan, having a prospective franchisee create their own business plan separate and apart from any advice the franchisor gives them, and then sitting down and saying, okay, what is your available capital? What liquid capital do you have? And not just what do you have, but what can you really part with? We have
What if
really,
you lose it, right?
Yes.
Is it going to be the end of the line for you if you lose this?
What if you start spending much more getting the business up and running than you expected? Can you survive? Are you prepared to survive? Have you really owned that decision that you're ready to make those additional expenditures to make the business work? A franchisee has to be ready for that. And that's when you asked me earlier, what are the pitfalls? Probably one of the greatest pitfalls franchisees can get into is underestimating their capital investments. Right. Looking at the range the franchisors give them in item 7 of the FDD, which is your range of your estimated initial investment.
Plus, you said earlier when you looked at your own opportunity, you looked at what's it going to cost me.
Oh yeah.
What's it going to cost me, which is saying, the same kind of thing. What are the franchises? I saw in this What's Hot, What's Not article, it had eBay drop-off stores, which I've heard the one in Tampa closed up some time ago. Meal preparation, which I wouldn't think that would be true. I think that they would stay alive. Gourmet food, retail, framing stores, which we did see a lot. Weight loss centers, even though you're saying that this one Medi
weight loss has grown very well, but some have not. And that's the difference of quality of systems.
Tanning systems, which one would think after all the warnings, and direct mail services, which I mean, even the post office is not putting up with direct mail services now. But those are, I don't know if you have any comment on those or want to add to or comment on that.
Tanning is one of those hit or miss ones. There are a number of tanning systems that have grown dramatically, a lot of push, lots of franchise sales in them. And then they've some of them somewhat have imploded as concepts because they grew too fast. They sold franchises to probably people who weren't ready to be franchisees, who were enamored with the idea. But then there are other systems. For example, if you look in Florida, there's a franchise system. Well, it's not franchise yet, but it's in the process, possibly. It's called ZoomTan. It's all owned by one company right now. They're growing tremendously. The founder of Paychex has invested in ZoomTan. He's one of the investors in it. He's got a great corporate team. I know them well. They're not franchised yet, but they're doing very well. And they could be a very good franchisor if they went down that path. The question is whether or not their systems are better than another company's systems.
And do they suit you, as you told us, Bill?
Yeah, and I was just going to comment on the list of what's hot today. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's profitable or that it's going to be hot next year or the year after. And the reason I say that is I've been watching.
Like Facebook should be gone by next year, don't you think? I'm done with that already.
But they have 845 million users. But
I think each person I know has like 5 different accounts, so I think they ought to divide that number up. I think they're kidding me.
Entrepreneur Magazine usually publishes every year their top 100 franchises, and I've been watching this for the last 20 years, and so I've seen the trends as some of the franchises would be very popular this year, and then next year they might fall by the wayside for the very reasons that Scott mentioned. They grew too quickly, too fast. They couldn't continue to manage the brand and control the brand, and they went through a little bit of a pullback, or worse. I can think of a particular, it was a sandwich franchise that was big guns about 4 years ago and has really experienced some hard times in the last couple of years. So again, just because it's hot this year doesn't mean it will be next year, and doesn't mean that that's why you should make that decision, is just because it's hot.
I remember I worked, my first big full-time job out of school was with General Foods Corporation. And in orientation, they told us the story of Swansdown cake flour. They did not prepare for the popularity, just the reverse. They didn't prepare. They thought it would take women a long time to get over making cake from scratch and finding it in the box already made. They thought women weren't going to buy it. So they did a low-key advertising, didn't gear up production-wise, and Pillsbury got in immediately and could gear up, and they never got the market they were going to get because they were actually first, and they didn't get it, or it was General Mills or Pillsbury. One of them got in, could gear up their production. So, and I've often heard that Burger King follows McDonald's. They don't do all the consulting studies. Wherever there's going to be a McDonald's, you'll find a Burger King within blocks. They'll wait. I mean, so sometimes you might open something and somebody else gets the same idea, I guess.
I would probably say on the Burger King level that the size of that organization, I would be surprised if they're not doing their own studies. But a lot of those concepts go in very close to each other. Right. What you do see when you're talking about the ramp up, and another one of the pitfalls is a franchisor that's ramping up too fast. And often you'll see them ramping up too fast by using area developers or area representatives or area managers or however you want to call them. But the lawyers, we call them area representatives. And those are people who are given territories on behalf of the franchisor, and then they go out very much like a broker and help that franchisor sell franchises. They have an economic interest, and the more franchises get sold, the more they get paid, et cetera. Well, in a number of these systems that we've talked about, some subsystems and a few others, you could argue and say that there has been a growth of the area reps in those systems. They've pushed franchise sales dramatically, and they haven't had quite the same eye towards whether the franchisee is going to be successful as maybe the franchisor would have, because they've got an interest in just getting their commissions. And that happens with some brokers, and it happens with some area reps. We try to keep it from happening in the industry. All the professionals try to be as professional as possible and weed that out. But you do have that where you'll have people getting advice and saying, oh, put it in, go buy this franchise. And it even happened to my own parents. Fortunately, they didn't buy. They had a son in the business, so it helped a little bit. But my parents were coming down from Connecticut and looking to buy a business in the Tampa Bay area during retirement. And they talked to some franchise systems, and an area rep or two started pitching them on, oh, buy 4 or 5 of these units and put them in these locations, and we'll give you all this great advice. And I sat down with my mom and dad and said, wait a second, before we spend some money, I want to go out and see the locations the area rep is telling you that are perfect for this franchise. And the area rep was giving him awful advice, in my opinion, as to where to put those franchises. And I said, well, okay, I want to hear, let's find out more about who this area rep is. And what you found out is the area rep hadn't been an area rep very long. He had little or no experience whatsoever helping franchisees get in their locations. He had just bought his area rep territory and was pretty eager to put as many franchises as he could in that territory, and was hoping my parents were going to be among his first, best way to describe it, suckers. And so my folks didn't buy that franchise concept. So
you have to worry about the middleman.
You have to have good advisors.
And those are probably independent people, those salespeople, are they not?
Yeah.
Or are they employees?
Well, area reps are associated with the franchisor, is the best way to describe it.
But not necessarily their direct employees.
No, they're not their employees, no.
Yeah, and a franchisor wants you to be successful because there's something in it for them, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we're talking today, though, about creating your own job, staying away from those things that are hot sometimes is the
smarter?
Is the smarter decision to make. Go after those things that the demographics, that the trends show long term, not something that's hot today and gone tomorrow. So you need to be a little more practical when you're making these decisions, especially when you're making a major life decision.
Looks like Bill wants to add.
Well, I do, and there are some things that if you are serious about looking into a franchise, some things that you can do to begin the process of researching. Once you've sort of narrowed down the type of business that you want to get into and have narrowed down the franchise that you want to get into, it's easier today than it's ever been to research that franchising company, because we have the internet, we can Google them and find out all kinds of great things. But even beyond that, if you're still serious, then you'll go through a process of possibly contacting the franchise, getting more information. If they see you eventually as a qualified buyer, they will begin to share with you some of their documentation, like the franchise disclosure agreement. You can also visit some of their sites, talk to the owner, talk to the franchisees, find out what their experience has been, have a list of questions that you're going to ask them. And it's okay, and you've already alluded to this, to ask that franchisee, tell me about, do you like what you do? Tell me what you don't like. Are you making any money? Is it meeting your expectations? Beyond that, and I want to pick up on another suggestion Scott made, is you need to sit down and do the business plan. You can come to the SBDC. Mm-hmm. We can help walk you through that. Whenever you finish your business plan, bring it back to us. We have 2 finance specialists in our office that can look through to see if the numbers look good, if your projections look good, to see if you're bankable. If not, how else might you be able to fund this enterprise that you're looking to get into. Beyond that, we would also suggest that you visit with Pat. Pat's part of a small business resource network.
That's correct.
That's affiliated with the SBDC. We've put together a group of professionals in the Tampa Bay area, such as attorneys, such as CPAs, such as HR specialists, and in this case, a franchise specialist. Right. To let Pat meet with that individual to, again, make sure that it's going in the right direction, it's going to work. Finally, I would suggest that you never, ever, ever sign that legal document until you get legal representation.
What I'd like to tell the viewers is that we have a great area for developing both franchisors and franchisees. We've got great talent in this area, and if you have a successful business and you're thinking about expanding it, and you want to franchise it, and you want to give others the opportunity to create their own jobs, this is a great time to do it. You have professionals who can help you out in the process of doing it. And more likely than not, and I'm going to hedge with the lawyer words because not everybody's super successful, but more than likely than not, you're going to be very happy with the process of becoming a franchisor and growing your brand through franchising and giving other people the opportunity to create their own jobs. And if you're that entrepreneurial person who doesn't quite have the system in place or an existing business to create a whole franchise system, but you want to be in business for yourself but not by yourself, franchising is exactly what you should be looking at. But just make sure that you look at your capital requirements, look at what's right for you, get good advice, and then once you decide you want to do it, go at it 100 miles an hour. Because the entrepreneurship game is an all or nothing game. It's exciting, it's energetic, and it's something that you can just sink your teeth into.
And I always say everybody's got to try it at least once.
Exactly.
They have to try it once.
Well, it is a wonderful way to own your own business, franchising. But I think the one thing and the common theme throughout is get your advisors, do your homework, and check your emotions at the door when you're looking at a business. Make sure that you're making good, informed financial and life decisions before you go into franchising or any other business. But it's a team sport. As you mentioned, you're not by yourself. You have the support of other franchisees for individuals who are making a life change and coming out of the corporate arena. It's a good way to transition into that business ownership, but do it wisely.
And at least you have another alternative if you can't find a job, which has been difficult in the last few years.
Right.
Coming with everything, layoffs happening and the market being slow, so it's just another way that you can create your own job. Bill?
Well, it looks like we're breaking out of this recession, and historically franchises have done a better job of weathering these types of economic conditions. I've always been a great fan of franchising, but again, as Pat said, it does require you to do some homework because you are entering into a partnership agreement with that franchising company.
It's like a marriage.
It is very much like a marriage. Beyond that, again, just to let your viewers know, the SBDC is here. We are funded by the SBA. We are associated with USF's College of Business, and our services, our consulting services, are at no charge.
Your website?
SBDCTampaBay.com.
And your classes are held at USF?
Our classes, our office is at Port Authority Building at the Channel side, so plenty of free parking.
Oh, good. So you don't have to pay that $5 to get on USF's campus, which they should get rid of. I can't stand it. Thank you so much, all of you, for letting us in on your fields and giving some really great advice to folks. I'm sure they'll play this over and over before they get think about getting into the franchise business. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. And come and visit us. We're at University Mall, Tampa Bay Community Network.